What are we discussing on today's Locked on Diamondbacks podcast? D-backs starting pitching struggles against the Washington Nationals and how to replace Ketel Marte's production.
You are Locked on Diamondbacks, your daily Arizona Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked on Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. You're listening to who? The always charismatic host of this podcast, Millard Thomas, multimedia journalist, and I'm a graphic designer. So please go check out my website, millardthomas24.myportfolio.com. On there you can see all my latest work, from my packages to my articles to my photos and my graphic design. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. On today's Locked on Diamondbacks podcast, we're discussing the D-backs starters and the overall team struggling against the Washington Nationals, how to replace Ketel Marte's production after he goes to the IL, and of course, we'll preview the next series against the Baltimore Orioles. Thank you for making Locked on Diamondbacks your first listen every day. I would not be able to do this podcast without you, my loyal listeners, sharing, subscribing, reviewing, doing all that so I could do this podcast for you. Thank you. It's free. It's available on all platforms, so please continue to tell your friends. And one of those platforms is YouTube. We have been going live on YouTube after D-backs games, at least Sunday through Thursday for the most part. I can't always do it, but I tweet out whenever I can. So follow me on Twitter at CareerThomas24 or Locked on Diamondbacks, both Twitter and Instagram, so you can see when I'm going live. So please hit subscribe to Locked on Diamondbacks on YouTube. And if you're currently watching the YouTube live stream, please comment throughout the show. We love interacting with you guys as the show goes on. We'll read the comments live. So if you're watching this on YouTube, shout out to the audience. But now let's get into the Locked on Diamondbacks podcast. All right, back here on the Locked on D-backs podcast. And now let's discuss that series loss to the Washington Nationals, because I think we were all frustrated and disappointed with how the D-backs just played. Because if you've been listening to the podcast, I was pretty confident going to this series with a Nationals team that had their offense struggling. I didn't think their pitching was very overwhelming. Like, you look at the starters that the Nationals threw out this series, and they all pitch well, but on paper, going into those matchups, you weren't scared of the Mitchell Parkers or the Trevor Williams. Like, those are starters where this D-backs offense, which was a juggernaut last year, should have really taken advantage. But when I look at this series loss to the Nats, I don't blame the offense. We'll talk about the offense and some of their squandered opportunities, but I don't put this series on the shoulders of the offense. I believe the D-backs lost this series because of their rotation and their starting pitching coming out the gates and just coming out the gates and not looking strong, coming out the gates and looking slow, specifically in the first inning. Erod, Fott, and Corbin Burns all have struggled in the first inning in this series against the Washington Nationals. And it's just not them three. You go back to the Merrill Kelly start against the Yankees, and it's 4 straight starts by this D-backs rotation where you're starting the game after the first inning, and this D-backs team is in a deficit. And we know Arizona and the Diamondbacks have been like the comeback kid since 2023. We know this team has been great all season in scoring runs, 7th inning on. We even saw it in this series against the Nationals. But as good as this D-backs team is at making comebacks, you don't want every game to be a comeback. You don't want to start off every game after the first inning saying, man, we're down 2-3 runs, and now we're on our heels. There's so much more pressure on the offense where every play appearance matters so much more when immediately you're losing and you're down in these games. And when I look at this series against the Washington Nationals, I put the biggest slice of the blame pie on the rotation. Why are we starting these games so slow? This is a season where the D-backs fired their pitching coach from the last 3 seasons in Brent Strom, who we all thought was going to be like the saving grace, a godsend pitching coach coming from the Astros, turning so many guys into Cy Young Award winners. And I don't think a lot of the pitching that the pitching struggles we saw under Brent Strom was really his fault. I think Mad Bum was probably cooked, right? There were some other just bad starters under Brent Strom. And so now we got a new guy in Brian Kaplan, and I want to see how he responds to every D-back starter going out there and struggling in the first inning, giving up loud, hard contact, giving up home runs. It feels like a lot of these starters are struggling with their hard stuff. We saw Corbin Burnes today really struggling to locate his cutter. This is a guy we just gave a massive contract to, right? And it feels like every time the D-backs give out a massive contract to a new starting pitcher, that first year just has to be shaky. Zach Greinke, Madison Bumgarner, no matter who it is, it feels like that first year has to be shaky. And we saw Burnes today throw a lot of balls via that cutter. He had 4 walks today. If you go look at those play appearances where he had the walks, it would be like 5 of the 6 balls he threw were cutters. And it's just like, why is he struggling to locate his go-to pitch so much, so often right now? And it's not just Corbin Burnes either. You look at Erod, you look at his start in game number 2. He would try and be too cute in the first inning. He had a couple strikeouts, gave up a couple loud contact hits, and he couldn't make the pitches he needed to make in the first inning, led to 3 runs. But I will say, after those 3 runs in the first, it ended up being a very encouraging start for Erod. One of the best starts he actually had as a D-back. It just like, can you not give up the 3 runs in the first? Because he ended up having 12 strikeouts to just one walk. And what was really encouraging was he was racking up strikeouts on his fastball, on his cutter, on his sinker ball, like all the hard stuff. For Erod, he was racking up strikeouts on. And so I think it was a very encouraging start for Erod, at least, despite the runs given up in the first inning. Kind of the same thing with Brandon Pfaadt. Like, he gave up 2 home runs in the first inning. Then I thought he did look really good after that, until he gave up, of course, another home run in the 6th inning, which is always Brandon Pfaadt's issue, giving up home runs in the middle innings. But just overall, I want to know why these D-back starters are coming out the gates and not looking pristine, why they're not like already on top of their A game. Like, what has been the issue? Is it like extended spring training that we're seeing for the rotation? Like, is it still too early in the year? Do we need to take a look at the pitching coach? Like, what is Brian Kaplan doing with the rotation? Or should we look at Torey Lovullo for another season of early season struggles? I don't know, but I think this D-backs rotation needs to come around, because right now I think they're the biggest thing holding back this D-backs team, which is insane, because I thought the rotation was going to be the thing that was going to be the most consistent, maybe the thing that we could really hang our hat on. But so far, this D-backs rotation has been struggling a little bit, and we're going to need to see them step up in this next series against the Baltimore Orioles, who do have a pretty good offense. And speaking of offense, I think we saw the D-backs blow some opportunities in this series against the Nationals as well. We saw in the game today, he had 2nd and 3rd with 2 outs in the 7th. Gritchick couldn't come through. You had Alek Thomas on 3rd in the 8th, couldn't send him home. Corbin Carroll got to 2nd base in the 9th and then 3rd base in the 9th of today's game, and we couldn't bring him home. You had that I hit my mic there. You had that Alek Thomas steal attempt in game number 2 when you had Perdomo and Corbin Carroll right after him. The D-backs did a great job of setting themselves up with opportunities late in the game, again in game number 2 and game number 3 against the Nationals, but they were not able to convert those opportunities or execute on a high level. I'm hoping this was just a series where the pitchers didn't look right, the offense squandered their opportunities, just a bad series they could throw away still early in the year, because next you face the Baltimore Orioles, who have been fine this season, but their offense is really good, really young, really talented. Maybe their pitching is a little bit more questionable. So we'll discuss how to handle that Orioles series without your best player in Ketel Marte. We'll discuss how to replace his production in segment number 2. And if you're looking to buy tickets to an upcoming sport or an event, then the best place to do that, of course, is going to be Game Times, because Game Time is the best place for last minute deals on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. They have this feature called all-in pricing. When you toggle this feature on, it shows you your total cost
up front with no surprise fees at checkout. You could get a panoramic view from your seat before you buy. They also have the lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time.
Back here on the Locked on Diamondbacks podcast, and now let's discuss Ketel Marte to the injured list and how to replace his production. Coda Kid with the sad face emojis saying we're cursed. It did not look like a good series, Coda Kid, with the rotation coming out the gates and struggling. And then, of course, in game number 1 of the series, Ketel Marte smacks a ball off the wall just 2 feet away from being a home run. As he's rounding first base, he just starts limping. He comes up lame off a ball that looks like it would have been a stand-up double and maybe a sliding triple. And instead, Ketel Marte leaves the game visibly frustrated, visibly in pain. And it's something that he has dealt with the last couple of years, because you look at his time on the injured list last year, both hamstrings was the issue. 2022, he dealt with hamstring issues as well. Like, I don't know if it's dehydration. We got to get this guy some alkaline water, but hamstring issues has been the problem for Ketel Marte the last 3 years, because as good as Ketel Marte is as a talent, the one thing that he probably does struggle with is his health and staying available for the D-backs, because as good as he's been for Arizona, when you look at his career for the D-backs, he does miss a decent amount of time. He played 136 games last year, but of course, like we just mentioned, he missed time due to injury with those hamstrings. 2022 played 137 games. 2021 played 90 games. Like, this is a guy who, when he plays, can be an MVP talent, can be the best second baseman in the sport, but does miss a decent amount of games due to injury. And now he's going on the 10-day. We'll see if that's all the time he needs to rest and recuperate, because a hamstring, a soft tissue injury, the hammy is one of those things where it feels like it could creep up at any time, bother, persist you throughout the year. So it's not something I want to rush Ketel Marte back from at all. Do not come back, Ketel, until you're 100% healthy, because I do not want this to be a persistent issue all year where Ketel Marte is in and out the lineup because of his health issues with the hamstring. Let's get that 100% squared away before Ketel Marte is an everyday player again for the D-backs. And in his absence, we're going to need to see some guys for Arizona step up. The first guy I want to discuss is a guy who we've been having big predictions on all offseason, who has kind of lived up to those predictions at times. But in this series, Eugenio Suarez, yes, his slugging is still monstrous when you still look at it so far this season. He still has a slugging of 647. But the issue is, I think he has no hits outside of home runs this year. Eugenio is batting 176 after his game today against the Nationals. Still a 647 slugging, but he's done nothing outside the home runs, and we need him to get a little bit more consistent. Like, if you're not hitting a home run, it would be nice to see you start an inning with a double, or if there's a guy with 2 outs and he's on third, maybe just a little bloop single to bring him home. Like, as nice as the home runs have been for Eugenio, and some of them have been absolutely clutch, like that huge grand slam he had, we just need more consistent offense game to game from Suarez, because right now he's playing good defense. It does feel like he has a clutch home run every now and then, but like we saw in this series against the Nationals, went over and just did not do enough offensively. So would like to see Eugenio step up a little bit more with Ketel out. Another guy we need to see step up is Lourdes Gurriel, who has been struggling offensively so far to start the year. His slash line after today's game, 179, 200, 385, and he's just such a streaky hitter. It's one of the reasons why I like Gurriel more as our number 6, number 7 guy in the lineup, because it just doesn't feel like he's consistent game to game. Feels like 2 weeks he can be very consistent, but then he could be very inconsistent. Is that the best way to say it? For the next 2 weeks. It feels like 2 weeks he could go on a bender, carry this D-backs offense. Then 2 weeks he could look like one of the worst players in this lineup. That's been kind of the case with him since coming over to Arizona the last 3 years. He's had seasons where he's been great the first half, terrible the second half. He's had seasons where month to month he might be great, he might be bad. And so for Lourdes Gurriel, because he is so streaky, I would not mind moving him down just a little bit in the lineup. He still has a great amount of pop, can still hit a home run, can still rip a double, but because I never know if he's going to go up there and strike out or hit into a double play or hit a ground rule double, like you just don't know with Lourdes Gurriel. I just don't trust his offense game to game. I think he makes too many outs. And so because of that, he just needs to step up a little bit more. Him and Eugenio both had not very good series in this one against the Washington Nationals. And Gurriel overall, going back to last year, just a lot of streakiness in his play. So if we could get a little bit more consistent play from Lourdes and Eugenio, I think that would go a far way for this D-backs offense with Ketel Marte out, because I think everyone else has been at least been playing pretty well. It's more when we get to that 5-6 spot in the D-backs lineup. Feels like we really don't know what's going on there, because when we look at the top of Arizona's lineup right now, Corbin Carroll, I think, is absolutely ripping the ball. We saw him in the first game of the series, 2 for 4 with 2 home runs. And last year, it took him like 88 games before he hit 3 home runs. Already has 3 home runs in the first 10 games of this season. 3 for 5 in the finale today against the Nationals. His slugging right now after today's game is .641. The ball is flying off Carroll's bat right now. And it's funny because Carroll's one of those guys where whenever he does hit a big home run, it never feels like a home run. Like a lot of guys like Aaron Judge or like the Vladdies, like you could turn off the video feed and just listen to the sound. Just listen to the crack of the bat, and you know it's a home run. With Corbin Carroll, I visually have to look at it because from the sound, I would not know. And in that first game against the Nationals, he just kind of goes golfing and he just comes up. It doesn't even look like he has to hit the ball that hard, and it just flies off Carroll's bat. So way more locked in Corbin Carroll to start the year in 2025 than we saw in 2024, because the power was just not there for him at all in the first half of last year. And right now it seems like the second half of 24 has carried into 2025 for Carroll. And then the other thing I like from this D-backs offense at the top of the lineup with Ketel Marte out, I really like moving Perdomo up in the lineup. He's been so good to start the season. Obviously, he was 0 for 3 in the finale, but his slash line is still 314, 341, 457. I'm going to do a segment on tomorrow's podcast kind of going through this D-backs lineup and detailing the best guys on this roster at not creating outs. I think Geraldo Perdomo is number 1 on this list for D-backs players that just don't get out. His plate discipline, absolutely elite. He battles in every single at bat. We saw him against Kyle Finnegan in the 9th. His walk rate has been not as good as it's been the last few years. His walk rate has actually dipped down a little bit, but his strikeout rate, Geraldo Perdomo just does not strike out at all. He always finds a way to put the ball in play or do something productive, and that is why I love him in that number 2, number 3 hole right there with Corbin Carroll. And I do have to say, the DHs have looked pretty good for the D-backs. I do not mind Pavin Smith or Randall Grichuk batting cleanup for Arizona right now. Pavin Smith seems like he's still on the wave he was last year in 24. He was 2 for 3 in the finale. His slash line is 350, 458, 500. Like, he's carried over his offense from last year, which has been pretty impressive because I did not know if Pavin Smith was going to do that. I thought last year could have been a little bit fluky for him, but so far he looks like he's stepping up to the plate with Jock Peterson out. And so with Ketel Marte now on the injured list, need to see more from Eugenio, need to see more from Lourdes Gurriel. Corbin Carroll, keep it up with the slug. Keep it up with Randall Grichuk and Pavin Smith. Those guys are swinging good bats right now. Like them at the top of the lineup. And of course, I love Geraldo Perdomo at the top of the lineup as well. And then if we're actually talking about who should play second base between Tim Tawa and Garrett Hampson, I think I would actually lean Tim Tawa. I think we saw in that first game, his bat is just like more professional than Garrett Hampson. I like his plate appearances a little bit more. I trust him to get a hit. Yes, Garrett Hampson has speed, but that's why I kind of want to bring him off the bench, pinch runner, late game situations. Tim Tawa can also play everywhere defensively. So can Hampson, but being the younger guy, Tim Tawa, 26 years of age, I think I would just trust him a little bit more at this point of his career. So why not give Tim Tawa second base with Ketel Marte out? Order of the Sleepless Nights on YouTube has said, I don't feel too good about our prize starting pitcher signing. Gotta say, Corbin Burns does not look too good through 2 starts. I have to agree with you. Order of the Sleepless Nights. He also said, when do we give Jordan Lawler a shot? Jordan Lawler, I don't think we'll get a shot until maybe around the trade deadline, maybe second half of the season. I think they love starting him every day in Reno, getting all the everyday opportunities at shortstop down there, especially with Tim Tawa now in the major league level, just even more opportunity for Lawler. So I wouldn't expect to see Lawler anytime soon because I think they want to get him as many opportunities as possible. And then Ivan said, bro, what the hell happened? D-backs lost to an inferior team. Nationals, I think, are frisky, have a lot of talent, but are they as good as the D-backs right now on paper? No, this was a series where the D-backs starting pitching disappointed and the offense squandered some opportunities, but maybe they can fix it in this next series against the Baltimore Orioles, which we'll preview in segment number 3. And also, I want to talk to you guys about Just Ingredients because when it comes to fueling your body, quality matters. That's why Just Ingredients is changing the game with clean, high-quality products designed to support better health and peak performance. Just Ingredients offers an NSF-certified line of protein powder, electrolytes, pre-workout, and creatine, all rigorously tested to ensure they're free from substances banned by major athletic organizations. Just Ingredients has also partnered with 2-time MVP Bryce Harper, who trusts their NSF certified sports line to fuel his training and recovery. I love that Just Ingredients prioritizes wholesome, nourishing ingredients without the artificial junk. Just visit justingredients.us/Bryce Harper and use code LOCKEDONMLB for 20% off your first order. And for more wellness tips, follow at just.ingredients on Instagram. Back here on the Locked on Diamondbacks podcast. And now let's preview the next series against the Baltimore Orioles because it's time to erase that National Series out of our minds, the pitching, specifically the starters, because I think the bullpen actually has been solid for Arizona most of this season. The offense, I still think, was pretty good in this series against the Nationals, despite them blowing maybe some opportunities late in the game. I still think this D-backs offense was pretty good for the most part. They still did a good impression of being the comeback D-backs late in this game, late in these games against the Nationals. For the most part, they just weren't able to execute enough down the stretch. But now let's preview the next series against the Baltimore Orioles. Let's pivot a little bit because I think when looking at this next series against the Orioles, when comparing it to this past series, the Nationals, we weren't as scared of the offense. Guys like CJ Abrams, we highlighted, and they had good series against the D-backs. But for the most part, the overall lineup we weren't as scared of. We liked Dylan Cruz and the James Woods, but we knew that offense wasn't exactly ready yet from top to bottom. But this Orioles lineup, on the other hand, very high quality with how they're playing right now, super talented, super deep, and it's one of the best offenses in the American League right now. When you're looking at the runs that they're putting up, you do have to be scared of what this Orioles offense can do. Coming into Chase Field right now, they're third in runs per game in the American League, and you go up and down. A lot of players on this Orioles offense are playing well right now. Adley Rutschman is, of course, one of the faces of that franchise, right, with how he plays all season, with how he plays at the catcher position all season long, I should say. And then, of course, you just go up and down. Jordan Westburg is starting the season right. Jackson Holliday is starting the season right. Ramon Urias, you got Cedric Mullins, Tyler O'Neill. Like, you go up and down. They have one, two, three, four, five, six guys with at least an 800 OPS and four guys with at least a 900 OPS. So this Orioles offense right now is on fire, and this D-backs pitching is going to have to figure out a way to slow it down. If we see this D-backs rotation come out the gates again and start slow against this Orioles offense, is going to be problems for Arizona. I'm looking at Zach Gallen, who's coming off one of the best starts of his career against the New York Yankees. Can he do it again? Because in his most recent start, it was his knuckle curve that was so effective. We've discussed the fastball command issues for Gallen, and it's something that has honestly gone back to like 2023 when you track his numbers and look at the charts. He throws his fastball for less strikes. Opponents seem to be hitting it more. And so in his most recent start against the New York Yankees, Zach Gallen said, let's move away from the fastball. Let's lean into our knuckle curve. And it was so effective. 13 strikeouts, pitch into the seventh inning, and it was one of the best starts we've seen from Zach Gallen. 3 hits, no earned runs. And so the question is, will Zach Gallen do more of that against the Orioles? Will it be more knuckle curve and the off-speed stuff? Because I think every start, Zach Gallen needs to see if his fastball is working. He's going to come out the gates, and he's going to try and establish that fastball command, see if he can locate it. And if that first inning, if we see a little wobbliness from that fastball, if we see a couple walks, I would look at Zach Gallen to pivot pretty quickly to that knuckle curve, considering it was his most effective pitch in his most recent start. And then Merrill Kelly. How will he look? Is Merrill Kelly just bad now? Because I don't believe so. I still think Merrill Kelly's a stud. I think he's going to be fine this season, but you can't deny that was one of, if not the worst start we just saw from Merrill Kelly in his career. 3.2 innings pitched, 9 earned runs, and it was actually a game where the D-backs could have won. If Merrill Kelly turned that 9 upside down into a 6, D-backs would have won the game 7-6, but unfortunately, that did not happen. I can't believe Merrill Kelly would be this bad going forward. I think it was a one-game fluke. Maybe Merrill Kelly's not as dominant as the guy we saw the last couple years, but do I think he just 9 earned runs every start, walking guys left and right? Like, the biggest thing about Merrill Kelly throughout his career with Arizona is it doesn't feel like he walks a ton of guys. It feels like his command and his location on his pitches have always been fantastic. And so 7 walks per 9 innings in 2025. And the other thing is he had just not really struck out anybody this season, not really striking out a ton of folks. I just don't think that's Merrill Kelly. So I want to see him look better against the Baltimore Orioles. And then, of course, Brandon Pfaadt. Will you stop giving up home runs? That has been his biggest weakness so far in 2025. He gives up home runs left and right, very reminiscent to what he did his rookie season. I think outside of home runs, he's looked really good so far. Can you stop giving up the long ball? Because as we always discuss, for Brandon Pfaadt to go from like a number 3, number 4 starter in your rotation to like a number 2 guy, he has to stop giving up the long ball. So we'll see if he can do that against the Baltimore Orioles. And then going against his Orioles pitching, I do think this is a series where this D-backs offense has a chance to step up, because as good as the Orioles offense is, it's the pitching that has held them back probably this year. You look at the upcoming matchups. Are you that scared of Zach Eflin, Charlie Morton, or Dean Kramer? Morton has a 9.72 ERA. Kramer has a 6.52 ERA. Like, I think this is a series that's probably going to come down to whether this D-backs offense can get to this Orioles rotation, or if this D-backs rotation can finally step up and slow down this Orioles offense, because these are 2 great offenses matching up, and one team on paper has a really good rotation. The other team on paper does not. And so can this D-backs offense take advantage of that? We will see, because they did not do it against the Washington Nationals. So hopefully they can do it against the Baltimore Orioles. Looking at this first game against Zach Eflin, Eugenio Suarez coming off a series where he did not record a hit. Now he faces Zach Eflin, who he has struggled against in his career. 0 for 11 with 7 strikeouts. Wondering if this is going to be an off day for Eugenio. Could it be a day where maybe he finally wakes up, breaks that 0 for streak, from the most recent series and his career against Zach Eflin. It would be really nice to see, but seeing the numbers where Eflin has just straight up dominated Eugenio, wonder if Torey looks at that and says, hey, Suarez, you know what? Let's go with Tim Tawa and Garrett Hampson on the left side today. Or I guess you still have Geraldo Perdomo on the left side, but maybe go with Garrett Hampson or Tim Tawa as your third baseman for the day. And then also, we need to get Jake McCarthy going. He has not done anything this season. He is over on the year. This is someone that was so good for Arizona last year, carried the offense at different times. Also, back in 2022, his rookie season, he was fantastic. Jake McCarthy has been one of my favorite D-backs players, and he has struggled so much this year. I do not like seeing him bunt, try and do the small ball. I want to see Jake McCarthy just swing away, and I want to see him get his first base hit because it's a struggle to watch him right now. He tried to come through late in the game for the D-backs in this finale, and it did not work out, unfortunately, in our favor. And so hopefully this could be the series where Jake McCarthy finally wakes up for the Arizona Diamondbacks. Now, that's it for this edition of the Locked on Diamondbacks podcast. Come back tomorrow for more Diamondbacks news coverage and insight. And as always, stay safe, stay healthy. Doses.